Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the second half of March and the full moon that we have coming up in Virgo on the 18th. But I'm recording this actually on the day of the new moon in Pisces, and we anticipated some possible flooding because the new moon, the sun and moon, were tightly conjunct to Jupiter, and it will give us a glimpse of maybe what may happen, or one of the things that may happen at the Jupiter-Neptune exact conjunction on the 12th of April, because we're into that energy already. Pisces is very porous, and the literal symbolism was big unbounded water, and very sadly there's been just catastrophic flooding on the east coast of Australia, if they haven't been through enough for Australians. And in some areas of the east coast around Brisbane, I think, and New South Wales, it is the worst flooding they have literally ever had. So there have been several deaths. People are being evacuated. Some people are being stranded on their roofs. So please send love to them all and intend for the waters to abate. But that is one possible manifestation of this. It's big unbounded water, Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. There are other much more wonderful expressions of it, but that was one. The new moon in Pisces, absolutely, and the full moon coming up in Virgo, and that is considered the health axis, that polarity of Pisces and Virgo. So we have our full moon in Virgo on the 18th of the month, and that is at 27 degrees 40 minutes of Virgo, and that's happening 17 minutes past midnight Pacific and 7:17 a.m. in the UK. And whenever we have a full moon, it tends to bring issues to a head in your own personal chart. And by the way, if you don't know where this falls in your chart, you can download a free birth chart from my website and then go to the link below in the description. You can buy a two-part video series which will explain how you find all of these points that I refer to in the videos from a standing start. It takes you from zero, and what each update means for you, and it will start you on your astrological journey. So in your personal life, this can be very much where 27 of Virgo falls. It can be a sense of completion or culmination or closure, or can shine a light on something you were unaware of before in that house area. Now, for us, collectively on a broader scale, this, I think, is very likely to shine a light on the detail. That's what Virgo is about, the detail, the facts, particularly related to health. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this works out. And of course, this full moon is happening just literally 2 days before the Aries equinox. Let me just share with you the chart for the full moon. So here we go, and as always, I set this for the UK. That's where I live, so ignore the clock face, ignore the houses, just look at the signs that the planets are in and their aspects to each other. So we can see that this is very highlighted. This new moon is called a singleton because it's on its own as a planet in that particular hemisphere. So it very much highlights this whole area of health, details around that, as I say. Virgo is also the sign most related to natural medicine, and that is the medicine we get from the earth. That is plant medicine, herb medicine, that kind of thing. It's never drug, it's never allopathic, it's always natural. And we may be discovering more wisdom connected with that the earth has everything we need to heal. The other aspect of Virgo is very much to do with cleansing and clearing, kind of feng shui your energy, declutter your house, that kind of thing. But it's also, I think, as we move towards this very important Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, which is so powerful and special for us as a spiritual upgrade, and I think of this as very mystical. Here we see that Jupiter and Neptune are already conjunct, operationally conjunct 5 degrees away in Pisces. This is very much the mystic. The mystic, it's very fine energy. You can step out of 3D and live a very different life. But Virgo is also the sign of the ascetic, You know, that if you think of the monk in the Himalayan cave, I mean, that's very much the Virgo Pisces archetype. So if we can purify, Virgo is very much about purification and detox. So as we move towards this big conjunction in April, if we can purify and detox our energy as far as we're able, cleanse our diet, for instance, so we can move into that important conjunction to optimize it as pure in body and spirit as we can. I think that would be very helpful for us. What is really lovely here and very, very positive is we have a grand Earth trine, grand trine in Earth. It doesn't look like an equilateral triangle, but it is really, because the moon is at 27 of Virgo, Earth sign, Pluto at 28 of Capricorn, Earth sign, and the North Node at 25 of Taurus. So whenever we have aspects between the moon and Pluto, it can bring up a lot of intense energy. And of course, full moons do that as well. A lot of intensity in our energy. But what this is also saying, because it's a trine, a very positive aspect, this is about the empowerment of the people. In mundane astrology, the moon represents the people. So this is Pluto empowering us. And it's very highlighted, as I say, this moon. And also the fact that they both connect to the North Node very positively. The North Node is our future collective destiny, where we're headed. So this is, this is really solid. Our feeling of building our power, stepping into our power, and building very solidly, because it's Earth for the future. I think it's super, super positive as an aspect. Yes, as I say, we have this mystical Jupiter-Neptune conjunction that's going to become closer and closer until we get to exactitude on the 12th of April. And the Sun is also there. So Neptune is actually at the midpoint of Jupiter and the Sun. And that again is super mystical. Very much somebody who's dedicated to a spiritual path. And I think it'd be really good, as far as we are able in our busy, crazy lives, to follow that, because as the astrology anticipated as well, felt we were moving into some very fast moving, big events, very chaotic, very turbulent. That will continue on the 3D level. That's very, very likely. So recognize we have this beautiful opportunity with these Pisces energies that are so strong right now to step out, not to abandon what's happening on 3D, but rather to step out, to get to a higher pitch, a higher point of view, a higher state of being, so we can feed very, very positive energy back, excuse me, to the collective. And I'm going to be talking more about that at the end of the video. The other lovely aspect here is the conjunction between Mercury and Jupiter. This is big thinking, big creative thinking, fantastic for any kind of creative writing, poetry, that sort of thing, wonderful. And that is further energized by Mercury actually being sextile. You can't really see it here, but it's sextile to Uranus very tightly. And that is original ideas, original thinking, downloads, insights, inspiration. So really use your dreams, as I've been saying a lot. Keep a dream journal if you don't normally. Really use this well to tap into your higher guidance to get some real inspiration. There are 4 quintiles that you can't see very easily in this chart, but 4 very creative aspects at the same time, which is wonderful too. Now, other things I'd like to point out, which strengthen even more within a day or so, we have this Mars-Venus conjunction in Aquarius, square to Uranus at 12 of Uranus. Now, this is really about a strong urge for freedom, a strong urge for human rights, and it's quite a rebellious, revolutionary energy. So again, we could see a lot of protests and demonstrations that we've seen really for the last year in particular, and they are going to be ongoing through this year as well, if anything strengthened further. And that's reinforced by, I haven't drawn Eris in here, but Eris is at 24 of Aries, square to that Pluto in Capricorn, and I've talked about that a great deal over the last 2 years, that it's the kind of feisty street fighter that is wanting justice, wanting everybody to be heard, but running up against tough top-down control from governments, Pluto in Capricorn. So we've got some very clear themes here. Now, what I'd also like to say is on the 19th, the day after this full moon, Venus becomes exactly square to Uranus. So we could see a lot of turbulence in financial markets then. We could see turbulence amongst the currencies. Or if Venus falls in your 5th house or your 7th house of relationships, this can, and you're open to a new relationship, this can bring a sudden, out of the blue, exciting relationship for you. So if you're open to that, that's a wonderful opportunity. And also Mars is going to become exactly square to Uranus on the 22nd. I'll talk about the Aries equinox in a moment. So this is an absolutely firework, I want to say firework energy. It's explosive, it's eruptive, it's a firestorm, if you like. It's very much the signature of earthquakes and volcanoes, particularly because they're both in fixed signs, and Uranus is in Taurus representing the Earth, because with fixity, when you get a lot of tension with these 90-degree aspects, the tension has built and there's nowhere for it to go. So hence we get these cracks in the Earth's crust. We get earthquakes, volcanoes, very much the signature of cyber attacks as well, because it's in Aquarius, again linking to Uranus. They are both linked to the internet. So be careful to back everything up and have everything safe. Could be sudden shocks and surprises, but it's a sudden eruptive energy. Could be a lot of geomagnetic disturbance at that time. I'll talk more about that at the end of the video as well, or more revolutionary energy coming to the fore. So this is going to be quite a peak because the full moon is happening, as I say, just 2 days away from the Aries equinox, and by the 20th of March, the sun here will have moved to 0 of Aries. That's what marks the Aries equinox when the sun moves into Aries. And by then also the moon will have moved all the way up to 2953 of Libra. Now, I've just been talking about the long-running square between Eris and Pluto that we've had really for the last 2 years and will continue all of this year, but it's actually a T-square because Eris and Pluto will, by the Aries equinox, be squaring the moon, which, as I say, will have moved up to 2953 of Libra. So again, intensity of the emotions of the people. But the wonderful thing is here that the moon will be exactly really conjunct Haumea, the dwarf planet Haumea, because she is at 29 degrees 30 minutes of Libra. So they're within they're within about 20 minutes of exactitude. And as I've spoken before, Haumea is the link to the Hawaiian goddess of fertility. She's very linked to creative, regenerative energy. She's one of the strongest symbols we have for New Earth. And so this really, and one very important thing to say here at the Aries equinox, and I'll stop sharing screen here. One very important thing to say is it isn't just for the day or the few days either side. It is like striking a tuning fork or striking a gong for the next 12 months. It acts as a backdrop because this is our astrological new year. So it acts as a backdrop with all of the things I've been saying for the next 12 months. So all that I've been saying about the very eruptive, explosive, unstable energy, which could be related to the Earth or cyber attacks, what I've been saying about the T-square between Pluto and Eris and the moon, but also Haumea, will again resonate through these next 12 months. So that, I think, as I say, Haumea is one of our strongest symbols for New Earth. So this will raise to higher profile issues around the Earth, climate, nature, food supplies, etc. Also, all the things I've been saying about the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, it won't even be over in April. It will resonate, like ripples all through the next 12 months, which is fantastic because it's very much to do with a spiritual upgrade. It's also to do, this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, there's such a feeling of angelic energy. It's so fine. It's really very connected to the light, how much light we can hold in our bodies. And we know that as I've spoken about many times, that the Earth is moving through the photon belt. We have these waves of evolutionary energy coming in because light carries information, and we are absorbing that light into our bodies. And then it becomes a question of how much light can we hold. Our level of consciousness will determine how much light we hold in our bodies. And the physics of light is unstoppable. Nobody, whoever they are, despite their wealth, despite their title, despite their company status, nobody can stop that frequency, that physics of light, which is upgrading us in every moment. And even if it's a cloudy day, don't worry, this is frequency. Frequency still comes to the Earth. So it's very exciting. And at the same time, the geomagnetics of the Earth they are very unstable. I mean, I was listening to cosmologists the other day, and even since 2018, even since 2020, the number of coronal mass ejections, M-class and X-class storms has just become exponential. It's kind of 40-fold almost from what we had back in 2017, 2018. So equally, that very disruptive and destabilizing energy, the massive flares of energy from the sun, are also bringing in new information at the same time. So we've got the photonic light, we've got the coronal mass ejection. So new energy, new information is coming into us to upgrade us to become what I want to call the new human in the most natural, organic way, which is really exciting, but can feel pretty wild. All the physical symptoms, a lot of people at the moment going through extreme fatigue and tiredness. If you feel that, just go to bed, just sleep. You're still going to be taking it in. You're embodying the light. And I was listening to Cryon the other day, channeled by Lee Carroll, has been for decades. I'm sure you're very familiar with Cryon. And what he was saying, which was so interesting for this, is that the magnetic field of our DNA interacts directly with the magnetic field of Gaia. And this is really echoing that the research that HeartMath has done in the States, a very respected organization studying the physiology and spiritual side really of the heart, and what they have found is this match, this interaction of consciousness and the magnetic fields of the Earth. So here we have Chiron saying the same thing. So we're seeing it scientifically, we're seeing it cosmologically, we're seeing it astrologically, we're seeing it through people who are sensitive channels, psychics, etc. And so although this is a wild, rocky time, it's going to be a lot of turbulence and very rocky, lumpy stuff at the 3D level as we move through this year. But at the same time, we have the opportunity, should we take it, to really become dramatically upgraded as beings, as light beings, I want to say. And it's very clear that there are two obvious timelines operating now. There's a very, let me say, technological timeline and all that goes with that. That's super clear to see unfolding before us. But there's a much higher timeline, which is this sense of, if we look at the Virgo Pisces energy, how can we be of practical service to others, Virgo, and at the same time be of spiritual service to others, Pisces. So become a light being. Become a light being. And if you're listening to this, you for sure can become a beacon of light in the world to help other people. So be very wise and be very conscious on how your thoughts and emotions are moving through the day. There is massive drama and some really horrific things that are happening in the world right now. And because we're human and we're empathetic, it's very easy for that to capture our attention. And of course, as I say, that's very much part of our humanity. But if we get too caught up in fear, we are going to be energizing the fear and attracting more fearful things into our life. It's simply a frequency match. So we can be aware of it, but staying on our eagle's perch enough that we can be helpful. Because it only takes a tiny percentage of us to shift the whole collective. So really keep your focus on that higher timeline. Stay in love, stay in gratitude, stay in appreciation, stay in joy. And even if you're completely alone in your day, I spend a lot of my days just thinking and writing and working. Just be cognizant of living from the heart, living in love, being in gratitude, being in joy. And what we're doing is actually the light grids across the earth are now formed, and you can imagine that as a kind of energetic light structure. But what we're doing, every single one of us that can keep in those positive feelings and emotions, we're adding the bricks, we're adding the mortar, we're adding the roof. We are really creating, because the future isn't formed, it's completely invisible, it's ether. We are building more form, more substance, more structure to create that timeline more solidly. We are doing it. You, me, everybody listening to this. It's down to us. It doesn't have to be a future that's imposed on us. That's much more likely if we're in victim mode. But if we're in empowered mode, simply by living through the heart, we are putting the bricks, the mortar, the windows, the roof, the doors on that higher timeline, which is taking us to love, to peace, to joy, and we are helping the whole collective, even sitting alone on our sofas at home. If we can do that, you are being of practical and energetic spiritual service to others. So I hope that's helped you. I do tend to bang on about this because it's so crucial as we move through this turbulence. We're at such a massive pivot point. We've got to become very masterful and very wise and very conscious in how we use our energy, because thoughts become things, as the great Lynn McTaggart said. They are energy. They are energy that becomes matter and creates the roads, the tracks, the gravel pathways that are heading towards a much better future. So God bless. If you'd like more information about my books, my videos, my long monthly newsletter, just check out my website, pamgregory.com. A lot of people enjoyed the conversation I had with a wonderful astrologer, shaman, healer, Heather Ensworth, the other day. I'll put the link for that below as well, because that was real kind of big picture stuff, I think. And we were kind of going beyond the day-to-day astrology and thinking in a very big way, because Heather deals with the very long cycles of consciousness in her work. And, if we can think of how inspiring that big picture is, and we're all playing our part in creating that. So God bless. Have a wonderful full moon in Virgo. And we're going to enter a really active and eventful April, but that's for the next video. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.